The characters in Hunter x Hunter are morally gray, and yet we root for them regardless. In the current arc, Togashi has pulled focus to the Phantom Troupe, the greatest group of thieves in the world, Hisoka, a murderous clown, the Kakin royal family, most of which use their influence and power for corruption and murder, and Kurapika, a good person who is losing out to revenge. In the landscape of shonen battle series, Hunter x Hunter stands out for its moral ambiguity. In Dragon Ball Z, the Big Three, and new gen series like My Hero Academia and Black Clover, morality has definition. We always know what side is good and what side is evil, which makes character growth for one side to the other easily rewarded. None of these series are trying to explore morality. That is often a task for the seinen demographic. However, like the false front at the start of the series, Togashi makes morality the central question in the latter half of the show. That brings us to the Succession War and the focus on characters that we shouldn't be rooting for. What is it about Togashi's writing that makes us sympathize with these characters? Why do I want the Phantom Troupe to succeed even though I know the terrible things they have done? To understand the current direction of the Succession War, we need to interrogate what morality means in the world of Hunter x Hunter.
You know nothing of the bottomless malice within the human heart.
Most of the characters in Hunter x Hunter are not moral in the traditional sense. We have assassins, thieves, and the mafia all at the forefront. Togashi isn't arguing that any of these characters have beliefs that we should model ourselves after, but uses them to help us understand how we can create our own sense of morality in the modern age. The Succession War takes place on one massive ship that is heading towards an island of vast, unknowable horrors. Everyone on the ship is almost guaranteed to die if they set foot on the Dark Continent. The trip to the Dark Continent is a risk worth taking because it is a way for these people to escape the realities of modernity. Defining your own beliefs only grows in difficulty as modernity continues. We now have access to any piece of information we want, and yet it is near impossible to detect what is true and what isn't. In modern society, everyone has an opinion on everything, and that is what makes it so hard to find your own beliefs amongst the noise. That is the backdrop for the Succession War, a bunch of people trying to escape modern society. But I don't think that Togashi is rejecting modern society, but just pointing out its limitations. One of those limitations being the masks we wear in public. The drama of this arc is predicated on the positioning of people in the public versus how they act behind closed doors. The princes are not allowed to kill their siblings, but that is also the entire purpose of the Succession War. The different gangs want to uphold certain laws, so it seems they are moral, but behind the scenes they'll kill anyone if they have to. The internal politics of the ship mimics the larger irony of modern society. We act as if we're doing things better than we did in the past, but behind the scenes, those in power continue to do harmful things. This irony is at the heart of the Succession War and can help us better understand the morality of Hunter x Hunter. The question of one's morality has always been a part of the story, but the Chimera Ant arc is really where it was brought to the forefront, namely with Gon and Meruem's contrasting arcs. Throughout the show, Gon had a black and white view of the world. People are either good or they are bad, but when Pito, a being he labeled as bad, did something strictly good, it broke his entire worldview. Likewise, Meruem didn't see the value in life until he found himself caring for Komugi, a being that he previously would have looked at with no value. The morality of Gon and Meruem evolve in opposite directions, showing that your worldview should never be set in stone, and depending on the experiences you have, it can go in wildly different directions. This perspective on moral growth is by no means groundbreaking stuff. All of the other storytelling elements are really what make their growth so iconic at the end of the Chimera Ant arc. This view into morality and how we come to define it for ourselves is what gets complicated in the Succession War. Now let's take a look at the Phantom Troupe. Chapters 395 through 397 revealed the long-awaited Phantom Troupe, backstory. Here we learn that Chrollo and company started out as a theater troupe in Meteor City, putting on shows for all of the other lost kids. Their time as a theater group doesn't last long when one of their members is violently murdered for seemingly no reason at all. This starts Chrollo and the rest down a path of playing villains in the world, villains with the purpose to protect the people of Meteor City. The Phantom Troupe's purpose is what gives the backbone to every decision they make. The troupe don't want to kill in cold blood, but they will act in accordance with the reputation they have worked so hard to cultivate. It doesn't matter if they don't want to harm people because their pursuit of creating a strong reputation for the troupe is all that matters. That is their internal logic, and it defines their morality. Internal logic is the essence of what makes readers believe in a character. It is the reason why we can watch Hisoka do horrible things and still believe that he would help Gon and Killua in a game of dodgeball. Internal logic is normally something only the readers really care about, something that will come up in discussions with friends when justifying plot details. But that isn't the case with Hunter x Hunter, at least subtextually. With Hisoka's rebirth, he has abandoned his former internal logic and succumbed to a different set of moral ideals. He will no longer just wait to fight an opponent at their strongest, but will kill any of the troupe members on the spot. This shift has caused a change in perspective to the Phantom Troupe as well. Hisoka does terrible things, but we can understand why. It's the same with the spiders, and before Hisoka's rebirth, that is one of the reasons they were able to work together, because they had an understanding with one another. Then Hisoka is reborn and abandons his former motives, and the result? The spiders will now do anything to hunt him down because of his betrayal of his internal logic. Just like Hisoka, Kurapika is the cause of death for two spiders, Paku and Uvo. The spiders know that Kurapika wants them all dead, and yet even after all of this time, with Chrollo getting his Nen back, they make no major moves on the chain user. It all comes down to a respect of logic. The troupe respects Kurapika, but not Hisoka. Kurapika abides by a set of internal logic that mirrors the troupe's. Hisoka no longer does. He ignores the value of the spider's life in pursuit of killing them on the spot. Internal logic does not equal morality, but the two are still connected. Once you understand the logic behind one's decisions, then you can pull on that thread and understand why they believe what they do. The troupe believes that they can kill people if it plays a role in reinforcing their reputation as the greatest collection of thieves in the world, because without that title, the people of Meteor City would be at risk. Because of the terrible things that happen to them, they only have room for sympathy for those who live in Meteor City and nowhere else. Now, it's like we don't know why Hisoka chooses to do what he does, because he has abandoned any eternal logic for the sake of fulfilling a vendetta. In the modern world, what may be more important to our morality is not what we believe, but how we arrive at those beliefs. The process of defining your morality through your internal logic is how we can overcome the difficulty of modernity. That is an idea that Togashi is able to bring out through some of the most morally corrupt characters, that we all need to look at the process of how we come up with our ideals. The succession war through the Kaken royal family shows a twisted version of modern society, where the richest among us continue to find new ways to entertain themselves. The majority of the princes feel entitled to the throne because of their upbringing, and that is why they are content with killing their siblings just to get more power. This promise of the Dark Continent is fueled by a petty squabble between rich people, none of whom care about the common people, and others who actively seek to kill them. This takes us to the fourth prince, Tserriednich. Tserriednich kills for pleasure and will stop at nothing to win the succession war. The only logic he acts with is how to best please himself. Out of all the players in the succession war, there is none that poses a threat to the rest of society like Tserriednich. His own bodyguards try their best to hide Nen from him. When that fails and he learns of Nen, he is shown to have the best aptitude for any human we've seen in the series. What is even more terrifying than coming face to face with his Nen beast is the reality that when he masters Nen, there may not be a single person in the world who can compete with him. He won't just win the succession war, he could literally tear down modern life as we know it. Parallels have formed between Tserriednich and Netero, the previous strongest person alive. Netero devoted his entire life to martial arts, trying to give back to the art form that gave him such joy. In return, he became the strongest man in the world. That title left him isolated in the end, for he could always be the teacher, even looking over an entire generation of new hunters, but he could never find an opponent to match him in strength. Now that Netero is gone, it is almost as if the next prodigy was destined to rise up and take his place, that prodigy being Tserriednich. With an overwhelming aptitude for Nen and ability to focus in the same way that Netero did, the parallels between the two have become clear. There will always be someone in Hunter x Hunter who has the best understanding of Nen, and that person may become the greatest fighter in the world, and choose to use his Nen abilities to help others. Or that person could take the power and push his own agenda of violence onto others, putting the average people in Hunter x Hunter at the mercy of the strongest Nen users. Like Netero said, the human heart has capacity for endless malice, but it can also go in the opposite direction. Hunter x Hunter brings characters down to their lowest points and shows the horrific things that humans can do to one another. Togashi makes us care for his morally gray characters by opening a window into their internal logic. But these characters always move forward and continue to go on the journey no matter the outcome, all continuing to define what they believe and how they arrived at those beliefs. The Succession War is a clash of stamina, who is willing to steep to the lowest levels and push the boundaries of their ideals the most. That is likely who will take over the Kaken royal family. But those outside of the war, Kurapika, Melody, and the Troupe, to name a few, may be able to oppose the malice of all who participate in the Succession War. No matter how far down into despair you may go, something as simple as seeing a friend again, talking to your family, or even holding a baby could bring you back out of it. And that is the morality of Hunter x Hunter.